สวัสดีค่ะ วันนี้เราจะเรียนบทที่ 10 The Clusters จริงๆ เรื่องนี้ไม่ยากนะคะ เดี๋ยวเรามาเริ่มกันเลยค่ะ In this lesson you will learn how to read a word with a clustered consonant and also you will learn two exceptions of clusters which are fake clusters and ทอทหารรอเรือ clusters. So what is the clusters? The clusters is when two consonants are pronounced together without any vowel between them. The clusters in the Thai language is when the initial consonant is followed by รอเรือ ลอลิง or vowel consonant. Let me show you the example. ปรับ ปอปลา is the initial consonant and รอเรือ is the clustered consonant. คลอง คอควาย is the initial consonant and ลอลิง is the clustered consonant. And the last example. ขวา ขอไข่ is the initial consonant with vowel as the clustered consonant. In these three examples, you can hear that I pronounce ปรับ in the low tone, คลอง in the middle tone, and ขวา in the rising tone. Let me show you how I know the tones of these cluster words. The tone of a cluster word depends on the initial consonant. Let me show you the example. ปอปลา is the middle class consonant. As you have learned that the middle class consonant will have the middle tone when it is an open syllable. So to pronounce this word, you need to pronounce it in the middle tone. ปา Now we are going to read this cluster word with ปอปลา as the initial consonant and ลอลิง as the cluster consonant. ปลา So you need to pronounce it in the middle tone because of ปอปลา tone rule. Let's see the next example with ขอไข่ as the initial consonant. ขอไข่ is the high class consonant and the tone rule of the high class consonant is that when it is the open syllable, it has the rising tone. So I need to pronounce this word in the rising tone. ขา Now we are going to read this cluster word with ขอไข่ as the initial consonant. ขวา I have to pronounce this in the rising tone because ขอไข่ is a high class consonant. And here is the last example with พอพาน as the initial consonant. พอพาน is a low class consonant and the tone rule of low class consonant is that when it is a dead syllable with a short vowel, it has a high tone. So to pronounce this word, I should pronounce it in high tone. พระ Now let's read this cluster word. พระ I read this word in high tone because I follow the rule of the low class consonant because พอพาน is the low class consonant. And when you write a cluster word, you should put the tone mark and the top position vowel on top of the clustered consonant, not the initial consonant, as you can see in the example below. Now let's practice reading some common cluster words with meaning. กลับ ขวา เปลี่ยน เครียด แขวน ใกล้ ไกล เปล่า เผลอ โผล่ Earlier you have read common cluster words, but now we are going to look at the two exceptions of the clusters. We will start with the fake clusters. The fake clusters is when you see a word with รอเรือ cluster, but you are not going to pronounce the รอเรือ cluster. For example, จริง สร้อย สี And even if you want to pronounce the รอเรือ cluster in these words, it's going to be hard. For example, ตริง สร้อย สรี So you don't need to force yourself to do that. You just ignore รอเรือ consonant sound and pronounce it without the cluster sound. Now let's read some example words with fake clusters. จริง เสร็จ เศร้า สร้อย เสริม The fake clusters is usually the combination of the s initial consonant and รอเรือ cluster consonant, as you can see in these example words. But for the word จริง you need to memorize it. You're looking at the last exception of the clusters, ทอทหารรอเรือ clusters. When you read Thai and you see words written with ทอทหารand รอเรือ together, you will read them as the so initial consonant. For example, sai, sa, song. Now let me show you some words with meaning that use ทอทหาร and รอเรือ together. Sai, sa, สุดโทรม แซ่ทรง However, there are few words that ทอทหาร and รอเรือ will not change into so sound, including จันทรา นิทรา รามอินทรา You just need to memorize these exceptions. And that's all for the clusters in reading the Thai script. Now let's see the summary of what you have learned in this lesson. You have learned that there are 3 consonants in Thai that are used as the cluster consonants, including rò rửa, lò ling, and wò wan. And you have learned that the tone rules depend on the initial consonants, not the cluster consonants. And also when you write the cluster word, you need to put the tone mark and also the top vowel positions on top of the cluster consonants. So it should be on top of รอเรือ ลอลิง or วอแหวน not the initial consonant. And then you learn 2 exceptions of the clusters. The first one is the fake clusters. The fake clusters is the word that you see รอเรือ cluster consonants, but you don't pronounce the cluster sound. And most of the time, those words are the combination of the s initial consonants, สอเสือ สอสารา initial consonants with รอเรือ cluster consonants. And there is one word that you learn with จอจาน initial consonant, จริง. This one you need to memorize. And then the last exception is the ทอทหาร and รอเรือ cluster. So almost all the time, you should read ทอทหาร and รอเรือ cluster as so consonants. Only few exceptions that you will need to pronounce ทอทหาร and รอเรือ as the tr itself. And in the next lesson, lesson 11, you'll learn to read words with a leading consonant. For example, ขนม สนาม อร่อย You are so close to complete the Reading Thai Script series with me. I hope this video is useful for you and I will see you in the next video very soon. วันนี้ขอบคุณทุกคนมากๆค่ะ แล้วเจอกันค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ